Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, and my wonderful wife, Janet, is busy running the pharmacy. So I am streaming by myself today at the Team Needham Abode Podcast Studios. And I want to welcome back Christian Elliot. He was just on last week. We had a last minute cancellation and he was willing to fill in because there are so many topics we could talk about with Christian. So we're always excited to have him back as a guest, and we will definitely have him on again. And today we're going to be talking about detox. That might be a little bit of a confusing subject for some, and we're going to get into that today. So Christian, welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me back, Shawn. It's good to be here.
You're welcome. So tell me a little bit about when you think about detox, what do you think about?
Well, and really my kind of wake up to that came in 2006. There was a great book by Randall Fitzgerald called The 100-Year Lie. And so in 2006, he rewound to 1906 with the Pure Food and Drug Act and really the beginning of the FDA and the idea that we were going to create pure foods and pure medicines. And out of that birthed the slogan, better living through chemistry. And that slogan or that mindset, or that, as we talked about last time we connected, the centralization of healthcare and medicine in particular, led to a toxic way of thinking about how we would not just take care of our health, but really how we could use chemistry to, I could say, infiltrate or to enhance, in their words, or the idea that everything chemistry touches was only going to get better. And so fast forward 100 years of history, 2007 or 2006, he completed and published this book. And he just looked at the 100-year history of this promise that chemistry was going to solve our problems and we would live better. And he termed it the 100-year lie, because over that time, we had created about 80,000 synthetic, meaning new to nature molecules that humans had never interacted with. And he was basically rewinding the history saying, these are how burdensome these different chemicals have become and the industries that evolved around them. And he just, in every chapter, he's got something called Myths We Cherish. And he just goes through the myths of how these chemicals were supposed to make our life better and how they're actually doing the opposite. The original book in 2006 had the subtitle, How Food and Drugs Are Destroying Your Health. And he republished it in 2007, just kind of a year later, to see what impact it had had. And it really stands almost like the Silent Spring, if you know that book. It stands out as a time capsule of what we knew and how toxic our planet, our food and air and water and so on had become, and our medicines for that matter. And in 2007, he published, like, if we don't learn these lessons, it's not going to go anywhere good. And then to be able to look at the health statistics from, the 1930s to today, we went from about 7.5% of people had a chronic disease to 60% of people, including kids. So most of the problems that you can trace to chronic health conditions have come from a toxicity problem, and very few people talk about it. So that's kind of the opening frame, I guess, that I realized I brought to this puzzle of health. And if we don't address that, then in many ways we're dead in the water trying to solve all the downstream problems that toxicity is creating.
Well, and that's how I look at detox. I think sometimes detox gets a bad name because immediately I think what a lot of people think is, oh, they're going to sell me some kind of supplement to help detox my body.
Mm-hmm.
And although that might be part of it,
Mm-hmm.
I think basically what you're saying is stop putting toxins in your body, first of all.
If we don't do that, what are we doing? Right.
Right. Let's stop that first.
Yeah.
And then we can do what we can to get rid of the toxins that are in your body. That's how I look at detox.
Well, and you're not off with that either, but there's a challenge with it. One is, yes, we becoming aware of the places these toxins are and how they find their way into our bodies is part of our learning curve. But there's also a reality that no one in the world has escaped them. There's studies, the EWG, Environmental Working Group, did a study many years ago studying the umbilical cord blood of 200 babies. And it was just off the charts how many toxins were in their blood. And the number, pretty much every woman they tested had rocket fuel in her breast milk. It's the hundreds of thousands of planes that fly over us all the time. They have exhaust, and whether or not they're spraying something isn't even relevant. There's lead, there's heavy metals in the exhaust coming out of the jets. And so there's glyphosate in everyone's body. There's plastics in everyone's body. There's heavy metals in everyone's body. We cannot get away from these things. We can do our best to diminish the unnecessary, egregious inputs in our food and our indoor air and our water, but we're never going to live in a world, as far as we can tell, into perpetuity where these chemicals do not interact with us and create body burden. So becoming aware of where they are, and then what that means, the two lanes we really think about when it comes to detox are unburden. Everywhere we can do our part to diminish the burden. And it's not just toxins that are burden, right? Toxic thinking is a burden, and malnutrition is a burden, and on and on. But there's also empower. Like, what things can we do to help the body work better? It's not like detox only happens when we schedule it. The body's always trying to detox.
Right.
It's always working to keep the purging systems flushing, and it can handle burden if we can get past the tipping point where it has the ability to offload more than it has the influx of burden. And so once you kind of get some of the first principles down, it gets easier to approach the puzzle. And you're right, there's so many, I guess you could call them, in a jaded sense, snake oil salesmen who are just trying to sell you their widget to tell you this is the one thing you need to do to detox, or swallow this and you'll be happy. And all of your dreams will come true. And that's just really not how detox works. And so once you can step back from it and really approach it from a first principled lens, it's so much easier to figure out how to help somebody heal.
Yeah. Well, for one thing, I think we have to understand that if we put the right things in our body is designed to be able to get rid of toxins. That's why we have a liver and a kidney, or kidneys. But if it gets overburdened, then obviously it's going to be a problem. And if you're already dealing with other health issues, that's a problem. Yeah. So I think first and foremost, try to put as healthy food as you can and water in your body as possible. I don't think, honestly, to get rid of all the pesticides, insecticides on our food and try to eat perfectly without it. Honestly, Christian, I think it's almost impossible. It's doable, but not, so I think the most important thing is the less burden you can have on your body, but then be in good health anyway and have a good immune system. And then you can, detoxify your body that way also. Correct?
Well, yeah, there's lifestyle that's so relevant in this puzzle. And I agree with you. There's no such thing really as a pristine toxin-free diet at all. I interviewed somebody on my podcast, Zen Honeycutt. She represents moms across America. They did a gigantic study of public school lunch programs and figuring out and fast food joints. Go ahead.
Can I stop you really quick?
Yeah.
Christian, sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Go ahead.
But let's just get this right. And this is not original to me. I learned it from John Stossel 20 years ago when I was watching something on the public schools that he was doing special. Let's just call them what they are. They're not public schools. They're government schools. Okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
A public place is a place that you and I, this is per him, and I agree. A public place is a place that you and I decide we want to go. The government schools are not that. They tell us what school we're going based on our address, and they are run by the government. They're government schools. So go ahead.
Let me take that correction and build on it. We have a high school locally, and I call it the high school penitentiary or the indoctrination daycare. That's what those things are about. They're no longer servants of us. They are systems put in place by, let's go back to our friends, the Rockefellers from last time, right? There are systems put in place that weren't looking out for us. They were meant to create lemmings and employees and not have people think critically and to take God out of our institutions. And they've done a bang up job of capturing another segment of our, I guess, systems that run our lives. But yeah, so affirm you on that level very much. But
thank you.
Yes, I can't argue you at all on that one. But back to my point about Zen Honeycutt, and they did a survey of the indoctrination camps called public schools, and they did fast food, and they went and just broke down the chemical constituents in that to find out how much toxicity we may be dealing with. It is off the charts how much toxicity is in public school lunches, indoctrination daycares, and fast food. and in particular the French fries. They're awful when it comes to heavy metals. But one thing she also pointed out in that interview was that even organic food, it's way less, it's significantly less toxicity in it, but it is still not pristine. So to your point, yes, there's no diet that is 100% free from any trace of toxicity. That's because of the rain, and there's wind, and there's things that carry these toxins all over our world, and there's no water that's not tainted by it in some way. So once you start to get that, then you can say, okay, well, what can I do without being paranoid? And it really will come back to, okay, well, how does the body purge these things from my system? And to your point, there's a tremendous amount where lifestyle has to do with it. Lifestyle, I'm broadly speaking of your movement and how your rhythms of how you run your life and where you're active. And there's so many different things about, are you sleeping well? Are you pooping well? Are you able to cut off stress? Are you filled with toxic relationships and negative thinking? And all of those things are poisonous too, and they create more burden. And so if we are going to get back in front of the toxicity problem, we have to take a first principled approach to, well, where is this actually solvable? Because to your point, it is impossible to do the infinite math on every bacteria and plastic and heavy metal and pesticide, et cetera, all over our bodies. Only the body knows how to do that. And so our responsibility is to be stewards of that body, to say, I can't solve all that. I don't know how the body heals itself. I just know that it does. So let me do my part to diminish the influx so that the burden level decreases, and my habits, my lifestyle. And there are supplements worth taking, and there is a difference in tap water and filtered structured water, and there is a difference in different types of exercise and their benefit, and there's something to fresher air on. There's plenty of things we can do, but if it doesn't start with the first principles, if it doesn't start with the lifestyle, then you're essentially, I think of it as tidying instead of deep cleaning. You're just kind of you take a few things hoping that it will make a difference, when in reality you're not really getting to the heart of the matter.
Yeah. So tell us. Let's talk about some of the supplements. What would you, outside of trying to eliminate, like we just said, the worst that we can't, the worst offenders, and take care of our bodies. What are some supplements that you would recommend?
Okay, well, great. So what we did, and what we do in our programs, we've looked at the supplement world in all its breadth. And one of the things that became apparent is we have taken this reductionist pill for every ill, thought process of pharmaceuticals, and we've applied it to nutrition. And nutrition doesn't work that way. Nutrition works where there's breadth, where the body has a host of different nutrients it needs. And often, you'll run a lab test and you'll test for 5 nutrients or 10 or whatever. And sure enough, your vitamin D is low and your iodine's this. And we just backfill and attempt to supplement particular nutrients rather than zooming out and saying, what's the breadth of what the body needs? Because there's no maverick nutrient like, hey, everybody back off, vitamin D's here. I'll handle this. Like, the body needs all of these nutrients. And so what we ended up doing is breaking down this gigantic supplement world into 2 categories. There's purifying supplements, which really don't do much of anything to nourish you. And there's nourishing supplements. And then from them, we even narrowed it to say, what are the things that have the most benefit and the most approachable price tag, and things that you don't necessarily have to have a doctor for. So some of the things that I might mention get me censored very quickly because you're not allowed to talk about some of these things. So I'll just say it in code for those of you who don't know, Rorine Riroxide. You may have heard of something like that has the initials C and D that could be dramatically helpful for your health. Also, I'll say it, chlorine dioxide. You're not allowed to talk about that. I made a video about how I make it and how I take it, and it was taken down by YouTube in about 8 minutes. I didn't mention one health condition. I didn't mention any claim. I just said, here's how I make this stuff and here's how I take it. And that was a no-no. So there are some things like that chlorine dioxide would be one example of a dramatically powerful purifying agent. And there's nuance to how to use it. And if you look it up on all the typical search engines, you're going to get these alarm bells of the Church of Bleach, and it's dangerous and everything that you wouldn't want to. They'll try to scare the heck out of you to even approach it. In other countries, it is catching fire and taking off and doing a tremendous amount of good. So that would be one. Another, this is in the purifying lane, there'd be structured nanosilver. So